The laughter hit me before the words did. I turned, the silk dress still in my hands, as my sister's voice rang through the boutique, sharp, confident, dripping with mockery. "Cancel her order," Lila said, snapping her manicured fingers toward the cashier. "She can't afford that dress. Trust me, I know her better than anyone." Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. The air froze. Dozens of curious eyes darted my way. A sales associate stopped mid-fold. Even the soft jazz in the background suddenly felt too loud. I swallowed the sting that rose in my throat. "Lila, that's enough." She smirked, her diamond earrings catching the light. "Oh, come on, Ava. It's not an insult if it's true. I'm just saving you from embarrassment." A few customers chuckled. The cashier, Megan, looked down awkwardly, whispering, "Ma'am, should I?" I exhaled slowly. "No," I said calmly. "You shouldn't." But Lila wasn't done. "You've always had this little fantasy of being someone. You still live in that tiny apartment, right? With the same old Honda that barely starts." Derek, her husband, stood beside her, silent, expressionless, pretending to check his watch. He never stopped her. He never had to. I forced a faint smile, one I'd learned to wear during years of being the family embarrassment. "If you're done, I'd like to pay." Lila leaned closer, lowering her voice but loud enough for the crowd to hear. "Pay? With what, Ava?" "Good intentions." Laughter again. It felt like high school all over. Her perfect, composed, adored me, invisible, surviving on patience. I looked her straight in the eye and said softly, "You shouldn't confuse silence with weakness." Her brows arched. "Excuse me?" I nodded toward Megan. "Go ahead and ring it up. My husband will handle the rest." Lila scoffed. "Oh, please. Don't start the fairy tale again. That mysterious husband of yours who's always working on something big. Does he even exist?" Before I could respond, the glass doors slid open behind her, smooth, automatic, like a cue in a movie. Every head turned. Ethan walked in. Tall, composed, effortlessly confident in a tailored black suit that whispered success instead of shouting it. His voice cut clean through the room. "Sorry I'm late, sweetheart. Had to finalize some paperwork for the acquisition." Lila turned, blinking. "Acquisition." Ethan smiled politely, shaking hands with the boutique manager, Mr. Lawson, who came rushing out from the back. "Mr. Collins, we weren't expecting you today. Everything is ready for the transition." Lila's painted smile faltered. "Transition? What transition?" Mr. Lawson's tone was respectful. "This location officially changes ownership today. The paperwork was completed this morning. It's part of Mrs. Collins's new retail line." I met Lila's stunned gaze. "You were saying something about fairy tales?" Ethan slipped his arm around me, his voice warm but edged with subtle pride. "Your wife's first boutique looks incredible. I told the board it would be her vision that sets it apart." Lila took a step back, her color draining. "Your boutique?" "Yes," I said, calmly, no longer shrinking under her stare. "I don't just afford the dress, I design it." The silence was delicious. Even Megan, the cashier, blinked in awe. Ethan turned to the staff. "Please charge everything to my wife's account. And make sure Ms. Hayes' items are complimentary. Consider it a family discount." Lila's lips parted in disbelief. "Ava, I didn't let her finish." "It's fine, Lila. I understand. Some people only respect value once it's printed on a price tag." I lifted the bag with the dress, nodded politely to Megan, and walked toward the door. Ethan followed, hand resting lightly at my back, a silent promise that I never had to face humiliation again. The crowd parted as we left. Whispers filled the room again, but this time, they weren't laughing. Outside, the sunlight hit my face. I finally exhaled. Ethan leaned close, his voice low. "You handled that beautifully. I just wish it didn't have to come to this," I murmured. But maybe sometimes people need to see who you've become before they stop treating you like who you were. He smiled softly. And now she's seen it. I looked back through the glass. Lila stood frozen, her perfect confidence cracked for the first time in her life. And as the boutique door swung shut, I realized something. Revenge didn't always come from shouting or proving or fighting back. Sometimes it came from walking away, knowing you'd already won. By the time I got to the car, my hands were trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer rush of everything that had just happened. The boutique door clicked shut behind me, sealing in years of humiliation that had finally been returned, neatly wrapped, and handed back to my sister. Ethan unlocked the car, his usual calm still in place. "You okay?" he asked, watching me closely. I nodded, though my voice wavered. I didn't expect to feel this heavy. It's not happiness, exactly. It's like relief mixed with exhaustion. He started the car, the low hum filling the silence. That's what it feels like when you finally stop proving yourself to people who were never rooting for you. I stared out the window, the boutique fading behind us. The gold letters, Ava and Company, shone like a quiet rebellion against every insult, every time someone told me I'd never be enough. But that victory came with echoes. I could still hear Lila's laughter in my head. The tone she used when she'd say, "Ava, you're too sensitive," or "You just don't have what it takes." The truth was, my sister hadn't always been cruel. We used to share the same room growing up, whispering secrets under the same blanket when storms scared us. But somewhere between my struggle and her success, something in her changed. Maybe jealousy, maybe pride. Ethan reached over and squeezed my hand. "You don't owe her understanding. She made you her punchline for years." I smiled faintly. Still, she's my sister. I don't want revenge to turn me into her. He looked at me with that patient, steady gaze that made me feel seen. "It's not revenge, Ava. It's justice. You just reminded her who you've become." I let his words sink in, and for the first time, I didn't shrink at my reflection. I saw a woman who'd worked for everything she had. The long nights sketching designs on the kitchen table, the failed prototypes, the fear of rejection, the bank rejections, the small wins that never got noticed. And suddenly, I wasn't angry anymore. I was proud. The next morning, a headline appeared on a local fashion blog. "Ava Collins unveils boutique under Collins Group. A new powerhouse brand is born." By noon, social media was buzzing. And by evening, Lila showed up at my office. She walked in without knocking, her usual confidence replaced by uncertainty. "Ava," she said quietly, clutching her purse, "we need to talk." I closed my laptop. "Go ahead." She hesitated, eyes darting toward the window. "I didn't know." "About the store." "About everything." "You didn't care to know," I replied evenly. "You were too busy laughing." Her shoulders slumped. "You're right. I was jealous, okay? You always had this piece about you. Even when things went wrong, you didn't let it break you. And I hated that." The honesty caught me off guard. She looked up, voice trembling. "I lost myself trying to look perfect. I pushed you down to feel taller. And now, seeing you like this, it hurts because I realize I became everything Mom warned us not to." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The air between us was thick, but different this time, not with rivalry but regret. I finally said, "I didn't build this to prove you wrong, Lila. I built it to prove to myself I could." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know. And I'm sorry." I could have held onto the satisfaction of watching her break. But forgiveness, real, earned forgiveness, felt stronger. I walked around the desk, pulled her into a light embrace, and whispered, "Let's just not go back there again." When she left, Ethan stepped in, leaning against the doorframe. That looked different. I smiled, letting out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Maybe because it wasn't revenge anymore. It was closure. He grinned. "Closure looks good on you." And as I looked out the window at the city below, sunlight spilling through glass, I realized, sometimes, winning isn't about making others fall. It's about standing tall without needing anyone to watch. 2 weeks passed. The boutique had become busier than ever. Every rack gleamed with new arrivals, and every customer who walked through those doors felt like another quiet victory. But no matter how many congratulations I received, a single thought kept circling in my mind: Lila's apology. She'd said she was sorry. And maybe she meant it. But I'd known her long enough to recognize when guilt came with motives. Ethan noticed my unease. That evening, as we locked up the store together, he said, "You're thinking about her again, aren't you?" I smiled faintly. "You know me too well." "She's your sister." "It's normal," he replied, adjusting the sign on the front window. "But don't let her guilt slow you down. You've earned everything you have." I wanted to believe that. But family wounds didn't heal like business deals. They lingered, quietly, in places no one could see. The next morning, I found out why my instincts had been right. Mr. Lawson, the manager, rushed into my office, holding his tablet. "Mrs. Collins, you need to see this." On the screen was a trending post: Lila, smiling beside a journalist, standing in front of my boutique. The headline read, "Exclusive interview with the sister behind Ava and Company's success." My stomach turned. She was claiming she had inspired the brand. The comments were filled with sympathy and praise for her guidance. Ethan's words echoed in my head: "Don't let her guilt slow you down." I clenched my jaw. "Get the PR team on this. I want a press release clarifying who founded this company." Mr. Lawson nodded immediately. "Right away, ma'am." That evening, as the statement went public, my phone buzzed. "Lila." I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. "Ava," she started, her tone defensive, "you didn't have to embarrass me publicly like that. It was just a small interview." "Small?" I asked sharply. "You told the world you built my brand." "I didn't say that," she argued. "They twisted my words. You know how the media works." I sighed. "You posed in front of my store, Lila. You let them write lies, and you smiled for the camera." She went silent. Then her voice cracked just a little. "I just wanted to feel relevant again." For a moment, my anger wavered. Because beneath her selfishness, I heard something else: loneliness. "Lila," I said quietly, "I never wanted to compete with you. But you turned everything into a race I never signed up for." Her breathing trembled. "I know. I didn't think you'd actually make it." The honesty stung. "That's the difference between us," I said softly. "You wanted to be seen. I just wanted to matter." There was nothing left to say. I hung up gently, then looked out at the glowing city skyline. Ethan walked in with 2 mugs of coffee. "I take it that call didn't end well." "No," I murmured. "But maybe it ended the way it needed to." He handed me the cup, his tone steady. "Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's not needing their approval anymore." I looked at him and smiled faintly. That's the one thing she'll never understand. The next morning, our sales doubled overnight. The media clarified the truth, and people rallied behind me for handling it gracefully. I didn't post a single response. I didn't have to. Lila disappeared from the spotlight as quickly as she'd stepped into it. Weeks later, a small envelope arrived at my office. No return address. Just my name, Ava. Inside was a note in Lila's handwriting. "You were right. I wanted attention. You wanted purpose. And you won. I hope someday I find my own." I stared at those words for a long time, feeling a strange mix of sadness and peace. I placed the note in my drawer, smiled softly, and whispered to myself, "Maybe you already have, Lila, just not in the way you planned." Ethan appeared at the door again, his voice warm. "Ready to go home, boss?" "Yeah," I said, turning off the lights, the boutique glowing behind us like the start of a brand new story. Because for the first time in years, my life didn't revolve around proving anything to anyone. I wasn't the poor sister anymore. I was the woman who built her own name, and learned that sometimes the loudest revenge is quiet success. A month later, the boutique glowed brighter than ever. The brand was taking off: partnerships, interviews, even a small feature in a national magazine. But the real shift wasn't in business. It was in me. For years, I'd carried the weight of being underestimated, of biting my tongue when people mocked me. Now I walked with quiet confidence, not the loud, flashy kind, but the kind that came from surviving storms and building your own shelter. That morning, as I reviewed the new designs, Megan came running in, breathless. "Mrs. Collins, there's someone here to see you." I looked up. "Who?" She hesitated. "It's your sister." For a split second, my heart sank. I hadn't seen Lila since the scandal, the fake interview, the backlash, the letter she'd sent afterward. I didn't know whether to brace for another storm or prepare for closure. "Send her in," I said quietly. Lila stepped inside wearing no jewelry, no layers of designer arrogance. Just a plain white blouse and jeans. Her eyes looked tired, human, real. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi." The silence between us was heavy, but this time it wasn't bitter. It was fragile, like glass that could shatter with one wrong word. She took a shaky breath. "I know I said I was sorry before, but I don't think you believed me. And honestly, I don't blame you." I leaned back against my desk, studying her. "So, why are you here now?" Her eyes glistened. "Because I saw your dress on the cover of Modern Vogue, and for the first time, I wasn't jealous. I was proud, and I hated that it took me so long to feel that way." I felt a lump rise in my throat. She continued, her voice trembling. "You know what the worst part is? When I told people you'd never make it, I actually believed it. Because if you could, it meant I had no excuse for my own failures." I exhaled, finally understanding. Her cruelty had never been about hate, it had been fear. I walked over slowly and handed her the same silk dress that had started it all, the one she'd told the cashier to cancel. Her eyes widened. "You kept it." "It was the first design I ever sold under Ava and Company," I said. "The one that taught me I didn't need approval to believe in my own worth." She ran her fingers over the fabric, whispering, "It's beautiful." "You said I couldn't afford it," I said softly. "Now I want you to have it." Her lips parted in shock. "Ava, I can't." "You can," I interrupted gently. "Not because you deserve it, but because I finally understand what forgiveness feels like. You can't heal if you keep replaying the pain." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "You're too good for me." I smiled faintly. "No. I just stopped letting anger decide who I am." Ethan appeared in the doorway, watching quietly as Lila embraced me, an embrace years overdue, soaked in regret, love, and the quiet relief of letting go. When she left, Ethan slipped his arm around my shoulders. "That was brave," he said. "Most people would have closed the door forever." "I almost did," I admitted. "But sometimes, the most powerful revenge is giving someone back their humanity." He kissed my forehead lightly. "And that's why you'll always win, Ava." That night, we returned to the boutique after hours. The lights shimmered against the glass, reflecting my name on the storefront. Ava and Company. I stared at it for a long time, the name that had once been a dream, now standing tall against the city lights. "Do you ever get tired of hearing people say you made it?" Ethan asked. I smiled. "No." "Because I didn't just make it. I became the kind of woman I used to look up to." As we locked the doors and walked away hand in hand, I looked back one last time, because I knew that behind that glass wasn't just a store. It was proof that every insult, every humiliation, every "you can't," had been fuel for my rise. And somewhere deep down, I hoped Lila found her rise too. Because in the end, the real story wasn't about the dress or the boutique. It was about a woman who stopped waiting for validation and built her own crown.